until all have heard.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our first episode of Friends in Action International Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Bachert, and today we have an exciting opportunity to get to know a new member of the Friends in Action team. Nicole Miller has recently joined our team as the event coordinator, and today we're going to hear a little bit about her journey and what brought her to this role and how you can come alongside Nicole as she's processing through becoming a part-time staff member here at Friends in Action. We'll also talk about how you can support Nicole, how you can get on her newsletter, and understand how she raises funds and how she can continue to communicate with you through her role as the event coordinator here at Friends in Action. So, without further ado, welcome Nicole, our first podcast episode, and giving this a try. So, Nicole, just tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, where you're from, and what brought you to joining Friends in Action.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, first, I'm married to my husband, Andy. We've been married for 5 years, and we got married in Tennessee. In June, we just had our very first baby, a little girl named Sloan, and she's wonderful, and we're just enjoying learning about parenting together. Andy and I met in college at the University of Tennessee, and that's where I lived, where I'm from, and he's from Maryland. So we kind of hopped around a little bit, and we lived in Maryland for a little while, which is where I got connected to FIA. But in college, I was doing animal science, and I worked there for a little while. I worked at a veterinary clinic for a few years, and then I got into wedding planning. So I did that for about 2 years before finding FIA. I just really love it. I started when I planned my own wedding, and I just fell in love. And so yeah, that's a little bit about before I found FIA.
So, how did you take the leap to wedding planning? That's a little bit of a shift of an interest level.
Yeah, well, like I said, I just loved when I planned my own wedding. It was just fun to me. It was joyful. And I had some girlfriends that were engaged as well, and they were planning their wedding, and they were like, "Oh, Nicole, this is the worst. We hate planning. There's too many spreadsheets." And I was like, "Give me your spreadsheets. I want to do them. I love them." I just felt like, wow, maybe I have a talent for this. So that's kind of where the jump happened.
Very cool. Very cool. So you did mention Sloan,
Yes.
and we as staff has had the privilege of seeing Sloan remotely, but a beautiful, beautiful baby girl. And
Thank you.
just tell me a little bit about your experience just as new parents, and how that's been going.
Yeah, it's been a learning curve. It was a rough first few weeks. It's a doozy, but we're just learning and we're loving it so much. She's 4 months old actually today, October 2nd, 4 months old. So she's rolling over, she's smiling, she's got a little giggle. She recognizes us and our voices. So it's just been really fun and sweet. And just a great experience. And there's been challenges and times that we've been up at night and not been too happy with each other, but we've gotten through it, and we're really enjoying it. We love her and love being parents so much.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, and it is cool that you can kind of juggle some of the meetings that you attend along with having her with you, whether it's you're holding her or whether she's down for a nap. It's
Yeah.
been cool. So we're kind of living vicariously through you as a new parent because our children are grown, and it's really neat to see, and just the love you and Andy have for her. So yeah,
Thank you.
it's been awesome to see. So cool. So that's a little bit about your background. What, as you look at Friends in Action, kind of what role you're kind of going into, and uh, some of ministry and what you've experienced so far. So just to let our listeners know, Nicole went through orientation with us last year. Her and another young lady were on the fast track for orientation because we wanted to get them on board. We wanted to get them involved. So they kind of took the condensed version, but last year it was just awesome to see her and another young lady really open up their heart to the Lord and see where this takes them. So Nicole, while she has been with us, for probably not almost a year because of the banquet,
Mhm.
but she's been raised in support, and a lot of things change in her family and with the newborn. So it's been a process. But what if you look back and kind of the building up to a year ago, what experiences kind of in your life, or maybe you and Andy together as a couple, led you to feel called to ministry work? And once you kind of started processing where God may have you and Andy, how did you stumble on Friends in Action?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that kind of being pushed into ministry started when I was in college. I At the beginning of college, I was shy. I did not talk to very many people. This podcast would have terrified me to speak to even just you, knowing that there would be a potential audience. So it wasn't very much like me to kind of put myself out there or lead or be up in front of people talking. Um, but I loved singing. And I had a joy for worship. And so I was able to join the worship team in college, and that I think really pushed me into at least starting ministry, like feeling like a leader in some sort of way, things like that. And the college ministry was wonderful where we went. It was called Calvary Baptist Church, and they were just wonderful, really wanted college students to think about faith and talk about it and just grow with each other. And so it was wonderful. And so yeah, I would say kind of worship is where I started with ministry. Um, and I still am involved in worship and still enjoy it. Um, Also, while I was in the college ministry, we went on a couple of medical mission trips. I went to Guatemala twice, and so that was another kind of eye-opening experience for me. I had never been on mission before, um, and so going and just kind of having to be flexible with the schedule and with what each day brought us. It goes against my planning nature, but it was just it was a cool experience, and again, it was just one of those things that kind of drew me into uh, feeling like there was something bigger and I could have a bigger part in something as well. And so it just helped me maybe understand church like as a big C church, like the whole thing. In that mission trip, we went to a church in Guatemala, and they were singing worship songs in Spanish. And you just kind of you recognize the songs, but it's in a different language, and you just think, wow, this is what heaven is going to be like. It's just going to be like all different languages, different skin tones, like people I've never ever met before, but there they are. They know the same God. And so it was just really neat. And my husband Andy went with me on these mission trips, and he had the same experience. He just really fell in love with church, capital C. And so yeah, that's where it all started. And then how I came to FIA. So a little bit later in life, I was doing weddings, and I just began to think, can I do more? Can I do something more for the kingdom? Can I use my talents for the kingdom in some way? I had never really thought of that before. I didn't really know what prompted that, but there was something prompting me saying like, okay, maybe there's something more. I can do something more with my talents. And so I literally Googled Christian organizations near me just randomly. I was like, I need to see if there's an organization that I can help with.
Christian
Um,
ministries near me. That's great. Great.
yeah. And so there's Friends in Action, and I just looked on the website, I was looking through, and then up popped, event planner needed. And I was like, what? That's crazy. I never even thought that I could event plan for a missions organization or any sort of organization for the kingdom. And so that's how I found FIA. And yeah, and that's it. That was my experience.
That's cool. So yeah, just it's interesting, different stories to hear how people are led to FIA. I think yours is one of the very few that said they stumbled upon us on Google. So hey, praise the Lord for search engines and how that works. So it's
Yeah.
been great to see you find us here. So you say you spent some time in Guatemala. You and Andy spent some time in Guatemala with mission.
Mhm.
I appreciate how you explain just the impact and just seeing again worshiping in another language, but still
Mhm.
worshiping one God. And I think that's so cool that we hear about those experiences, not just from a previous trip you've taken, not with FIA, but I was just telling somebody time and time again, people come back and they're like, wow, like that's what it looks like. That's what heaven could look like.
Mhm.
Like whether it's worshiping or just having a good time together with someone that may not speak your language or speak very little English and just
Mhm.
loving God together as brothers and sisters. And it's cool you've had that experience so you know what it's all about and that it moved you to it. So
Mhm.
event coordinator, again, it seems like a perfect fit because that's what you were doing. You were looking for something to make an impact and Friends in Action was looking for an event coordinator. Share a little bit about what an event coordinator with Friends in Action does, because often people, I think, from a support mission organization, which Friends in Action is, sometimes some of the background stuff you don't think about. It's about the boots on the ground, the preachers, the evangelists. But man,
Mhm.
it takes an army here in the States or wherever. It takes an army of support people. And event planning, event coordinating is part of that. So help unpack that a little bit. I mean, I know what that looks like for our organization, but help unpack that for others and kind of just run down. I know you're not fully engaged yet with some
Mhm.
of the events that we have, but you've been knocking it out of the park with the ones that you've been helping with. So explain a little bit about what you've done so far with Friends in Action and how that benefits the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as the event coordinator planner, I do events like community outreach, awareness banquets, staff retreats, staff holiday parties, things like that. So the events that build awareness, like the community outreach and the banquets and things like that, those aim to educate people and to get people excited about what FIA is doing and how God is moving through FIA. And so there is a lot that goes into those things. There's a lot behind the scenes of coordinating vendors and getting everything organized and who's going to speak and how things are going to be decorated and things like that. But it all aims to, again, just get people excited and get people wanting to know more about FIA and what God is doing, how they can help spread the gospel as well. So it's not just all superficial, looking pretty, things like that, even though those are nice. The end goal is always to get the gospel further than it was before. Um, Other important events like staff retreats and staff parties, it helps us to stay connected and stay on the same page. Similar things go into those parties and retreats, organization, speakers, different vendors, but really those kind of unify us for the mission and for the ministry. Again, with the same goal, just getting the gospel further. So all of those things, all of the organization, everything that goes into it, and the connection that the ministry needs to have, the organization needs to have to keep moving forward and to keep going towards that goal. That's kind of, I guess, hopefully sums it all up a little bit.
Oh no, that I think that explains it well. I think you've shed light on some of the behind the scenes work that really is important because to get the support system that the boots on the ground missionaries need, there's lots of events, lots of awareness. Some of that includes fundraising. Some of that includes
Mhm.
inner office things like Nicole mentioned, from a cultural side and a team building side. I mean, those
Mhm.
staff, whether it be staff lunches, staff retreats, or holiday parties, things like that. We're in this together as a team, and I think those just help build culture as well. So yeah, it's kind
Mhm.
of cool to connect just all the different roles that are important that I think sometimes people don't recognize, Nicole. I think from me, I mean, I grew up thinking that missionaries were retired, they were older people, they were out in the mission field all their life, and that's where they went, and that's what my scope of missionaries were. Until I joined Friends in Action and realized, oh, wait, I have a skill that actually can support those that are doing that just
Absolutely.
like Nicole with event coordinating. I mean, those are such important roles. And it's kind of the trickle down effect. Everybody lines their roles up and the tasks that God's given them with the talents that God's given them. in order to speed the gospel and to help reach further and reach longer. So
Mm.
very, very, very cool. So I
Mhm.
appreciate you kind of unpacking that.
Mhm.
So, what kind of events and things have you been working on? What goals are you excited on as far as transitioning as you raise more support and transition to more involvement with planning? What kind of things are you looking forward to?
Yeah, so events that I've done in the past have been more like staff related. We did a staff retreat back in July. Is that right?
Mhm.
And some other staff like team building things. But I am really excited for the upcoming banquet this year. I have been kind of shadowing the people who normally do it and kind of learning the ropes, learning the scope of things. Um, and I'm just excited to see it all come together, particularly excited and just anxious to learn everything because next year I'll be taking more of a role on with that. I will be doing more planning and doing a lot more with it. And so I'm just excited about that in particular um, to kind of see how it works, how people respond, how everyone works together, towards that. But also to see what can, improve, what exciting things we can do for next
Absolutely.
year. And things like that too. So I am particularly excited about the banquet. It's really I've heard people say it's the Super Bowl for FIA. And it just gets people excited about what God is doing. It brings missionaries and businesses and the public and all sorts of people together and in one room just to talk about how awesome God is and what He's doing. And so it's pretty cool to be part of that. And I'm excited for next year to be even more part of that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned a couple things in there. One, I want to reflect on what you said as far as the just, having kind of the learner's posture, kind of taking
Hmm.
in how we've been doing it, right or wrong. You've been taking in how we've been doing it, building relationships with those that have that planned some of the events in the past. But we
Hmm.
are super excited for a new perspective. We're excited for new outlook on maybe things we could do better, different marketing techniques, different ideas for events.
Hmm.
Again, it's always great to get those different ideas and the potential that we have for exploring them. Nicole, that you bring to the team is outstanding, and I know we're all excited for that. You also did mention the banquets, so I'm going to put a little plug in. So yeah, the banquets are an amazing time. If you've been with us before, you know what we're talking about, from the food to the fellowship to the updating. We're excited that Levi Pittman's going to be with us, our FIA missionary in Vanuatu. He hasn't been back for quite a few years, so it's good to have him in the States with us and to be able to share and to see his family again. But yeah, it really is kind of like our big event, and we do love to get people involved because from an appreciation side for our volunteers and our staff, just to give them an evening where they can relax and have fun, and eat a really good meal. Did I mention the food? So and eat a really good meal, and then also to raise awareness of some of the changes that have happened in some of our fields. I mean, God is always moving. They say if we continue to do the same thing day after day and expect different results, it's insanity. And God is constantly changing how He's moving in these countries, and it's awesome to see, and we're excited to share. So it is kind of like our flagship event or our Super Bowl, like Nicole said. So I'm going to put a link at the end of the video here that you guys can check out. If there's still time to get tickets, we have two events on October 25th, Friday, October 25th, and Saturday, October 26th. So two banquets, same content, and great environment. So I'll put that at the end of the show here, and check us out. So thanks for sharing about that, Nicole. And again, we're
Yeah, of
super excited
course.
to actually have an experienced event planner, an event coordinator to kind of coordinate the things that need to be done. And what's interesting, and I'm kind of going off the script here a little bit real quick, but you're doing this all remotely. Like that, I mean, you've been to our headquarters, you've been with us a few events, but that's one of the things I wanted to point out, like for people watching, like a lot of stuff can be done remotely. Like, I mean, just a lot of the logistics, a lot of the things that I don't even know you're doing in the background, but when I check, it's done already. It's so cool. So even from a remote standpoint, we love when Nicole comes here, but from a remote standpoint, there is involvement that you can be to help support the organization. So just wanted to point that out, that it doesn't matter if you're in the office here or if you're down the road or you're across the country. It's an impact here, and we appreciate the help. So we're glad Nicole's with us. So we'll move into a little bit more about what it looks like to be on staff or to be a missionary. And I always struggled with being called a missionary when I started working at Friends in Action here 3 years ago, because that can, again, it kind of can have a perception that, you're out in the field, you're boots on the ground, planting a church or preaching a gospel. But technically, our staff is missionaries. We raise support. So we're self-supported with our finances. So we know as a missionary staff member, you are self-supported. We talked about that earlier. Explain a little bit about what that means and why personal support raising is such a crucial part of your role too.
Yeah. Well, first, I would like to say I'm so thankful to be able to do this remotely, to be able to stay home with my baby girl and still take part in this wonderful organization is just such a blessing to me. So I really appreciate that. But like you said, a lot of people think missionary and they think people in different countries for years on end. And that's the only thing that they're doing is going and sharing the gospel and they're gone in different countries. So I'm a little bit more of a non-traditional missionary, you could say. But that doesn't mean that there's not a need for support or that there's not a need for, missionaries here. Just like you said, with, us in FIA, what we're doing is spreading the gospel, even though we're still here. So yeah, I am still in my support raising phase. I started support raising, I think it was last November, so it's almost been a year. And so right now I'm in like a volunteer capacity. So I'm volunteering my time and doing things kind of like part-time. But I'm working up to taking on more responsibility, doing more with FIA and those sorts of things. But it does require the funding. So it's crucial to have that because I get to do more, which ultimately spreads the gospel more. And so I in my newsletter that I have a little paragraph that says, "Help me be a sender," and that's really who I want to be and what I want to do is help send people, even if I can't go right now. Eventually, I aim to go at some point in time with FIA on some sort of mission trip, but right now with my family, it's just not feasible. But I can send people. And if I can plan an event that inspires that, whether it's someone to be sent into their community and just tell more people about the gospel in their community, or if it's to use the God-given skills that they have to go on a trip or whatever it looks like, even just praying for the mission, all of it helps get the gospel further than it was before. And so that's, yeah, kind of why it's important. The people that support me get to take a part in that as well. So I can be part of sending someone or inspiring someone to go through an event. And it's not really me, it's what God is doing. And the event just kind of showcases what God is doing through FIA. And I get to be part of that. And then someone who's supporting me is also part of that. And so it's just really neat to see that kind of chain reaction.
I absolutely, first of all, you put together a beautiful newsletter and it's great. Pictures are great. You share about you a little bit personally, you share about FIA and what you've been working on. But then at the bottom you do say, help me be a sender. And I haven't been with FIA that long, but I don't know that I've ever read that in missionary newsletters. I'm sure maybe others use it, but it hit me the first time I read your newsletter, help me be a sender. Because that's so important. It is so important. Help you be a sender. The people that are partnering with you through prayer or finances, they are helping. They are just as important role to support you, to help you send people, whether that's through event coordinating or the other activities that we do here as a support staff at FIA. Help me be a sender. I really like that. And then the other thing you mentioned too is a little bit about your work schedule right now. So not to get into too many details, but for the audience, so FIA builds in different support thresholds. So, kind of like benchmarks where our staff and our missionaries reach certain benchmarks and they can start to be involved more frequently, more hours a week and things like that. And we don't do that. We'd love to have Nicole here as like right now. Absolutely. So we're not doing that to hold her back, but we want to do that to protect her time, to support, to raise support. That
Hmm.
takes a lot of time. It takes a lot
Yes.
of meetings. It takes a lot of phone calls. It takes a lot of connections. So we want to respect that while we would love to use her and we hopefully we haven't overused her yet, that she's still finding time to do support raising. We are very cautious about that as our staff is raising support, we have these benchmarks. So again, it's not that we're holding her back. It's just that's why we're encouraging you to get on board, learn a little bit more about Nicole so we can get her here faster, help her send people faster. And your role is just as important as a financial backer and a prayer warrior. So I appreciate a couple of those things you unpacked there. It helps people understand a little bit better. So, for those of the that are listening or have, hopefully are watching the podcast, we'll see since it's our first one. So, hopefully, they're listening. How can they be partnered with you? How can they get involved in supporting your ministry, whether that be through prayer, financial support, or otherwise? Like, what does that look like for them?
Yeah. Well, I will never pass up an opportunity to ask for prayer. So please pray for my family. We always are continuously praying for protection over my daughter, and just her safety in general, and that God would hold her all the days of her life. That is just my prayer for her, that she would just be in his hands constantly. So I would love for you to pray for that for me. Also with finances, please, pray that I would stay faithful and I would be encouraged. It is hard doing this for a year. I have not lost courage, but I am so close to my goal. I'm so close. So I'm excited. Um, my I'm let's see, I'm like $300 away from meeting my monthly goal. So that could look
Awesome.
like
Awesome.
3 people donating $100 a month, um, 6 people at $50, 12 people at $25, just committed monthly donors. So I just feel like I'm so close. So I'm excited about that. But if you are not able to give financially, I would love for you to just pray for my finances. It's hard to step out in faith and to know that God provides always, but He does, and I do believe that. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now.
No, I appreciate you sharing. Yeah, I remember when we first started having conversations when you contacted us about learning more. I don't particularly remember. Sometimes when I talk to people about, well, it's a missionary position, you need to raise support. A lot of times I can see like the shock in their eyes or like, oh, but honestly, guys, with Nicole, like she either hit it well or she just was like fully on board with where God was leading her and willing to jump on board. So it was pretty cool to see, and I appreciate the faith it does take. From my perspective, when my wife and I were doing it, you reach these plateaus and it can be frustrating, but then God just shows up in amazing ways because God knows when Nicole's going to get that. He's already got it planned. He's already got it orchestrated when she can be involved more. So we're excited to see that be unpacked. Nicole, as we're kind of getting toward the end of things, how can people follow you on your journey? How do they stay updated? What kind of things do you do that I can kind of plug at the end of the video? How they can connect with you? What do you do to update your current supporters? What have you been doing to reach out kind of to new ones? What are those avenues you've been using?
Yes, so I have a newsletter that I send out monthly. It's not always on the same day a month because I've got a lot going on, but but I always send out a monthly newsletter that just talks about ways that you can pray for me. Also talks about prayer requests for the mission itself, kind of things that God is doing, updates on missionaries, things like that. So I try to, I think you mentioned before, I try to do a little bit of both, give a personal update, but also focus on ministry updates as well. So you can definitely be part of that. Um, uh, I would say emailing me is probably the best way to just shoot me an email and say, hey, I want to be part of your newsletter, and then I'll add you to my list. So we can definitely do that. As far as reaching out to other people who may want to support, I have spoken at my church here in South Carolina, and I will sometimes post my newsletter to Facebook, my personal page of Facebook as well, just to kind of reiterate what I'm doing and get people interested, hopefully, and just keep people updated on the mission. But those are kind of the things that I've been doing.
Very cool. Yeah, and I'll put some links at the end of the show notes here, and also you can always find Nicole on our staff bio pages
Yep.
and ways to join her there financially and through prayer too. So I'll put all that stuff for you guys there at the end, and I'm encouraged. Nicole has been a breath of fresh air here at Friends in Action, and just the ability to meet her and Andy, and now Sloan, and just to kind of grow together with them. So it's been great. As you look ahead, as we close out here, as you look ahead at FIA and see kind of what you've been seeing so far, and is there potential what you see in the future? Like, where do you see God working in this next season as you get over that benchmark or get over that milestone of support and get on board?
Yeah, absolutely. I would just say that it's been a season of faith. It's been a season of trust. And I just pray that he would grow me through that. I feel like I am growing through that. At the beginning, I was terrified. I know you said I hit it well. I didn't know how I was going to do it. Like I said, I'm not that person that really goes out and speaks to people. I can sing in front of a crowd. I don't like to talk in front of a crowd. So it's really been a season of just growth, I would say. And I think my husband would say the same thing, that he's just seen so much growth in me, kind of being challenged and pushed, which I think is wonderful. It's good, even though it's hard. But I would like to end on saying that, like, FIA, what inspired me at the beginning was I talked to Andy at the very beginning, this Andy, not my husband, and he told me his testimony about being a welder and just wanting to use it for something more. And I just felt something click. Like, that is what what I needed to hear. And I was so encouraged by that. And I feel like the more people that I meet through FIA, those are the stories that I hear. People are using their God-given talents for the kingdom. And it just is so encouraging to me. And I truly love that. And so I'm excited about that. I'm excited to be part of FIA. I'm excited to use my skills and talents and to be recognized for those.
Mm.
And I'm excited about other people who are doing the same thing. And so I'm excited. And yeah, and it's just a season right now of just stepping out in faith and taking those little steps as best I can.
Very cool. Yeah, Nicole, you nailed it. And I can reiterate, like, the stories here with staff members, missionaries, even volunteers, what got them to FIA, they're recognizing that God's blessed them with in some capacity, some talent, some ability, writing thank you cards. I mean, just to write, to build those connections, to thank people and appreciate things as simple as that can be done to further the kingdom. And so many of the staff have similar stories as Nicole shared, where they recognize that maybe they aren't the preacher, maybe they're not blessed to be an evangelist, but we all have one goal, and that is to see lost souls come to Christ. And how we can use what God's blessed us with makes it even more enjoyable.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you kind of closing us out on that note, Nicole. Thank you again so much for sharing your heart and journey with us. It's been great to grow with you and Andy and Sloan together. It's clear that God is at work in powerful ways through you in your new role. For our listeners, if you feel led to support Nicole, whether through prayer or finances, I'll put a few links at the end of here that you can follow to check out Nicole's bio, to get on her newsletter, and also to check out some of our banquets and things that are happening upcoming that she's highly, highly involved in. Be sure to stay connected with Nicole as she continues her exciting journey at Friends in Action. As always, thank you for listening. I guess as always, but thank you for listening for the first time, I should say. and supporting the work God's doing around the world through Friends in Action International. We'll catch you next time as Friends in Action podcast hopes to grow and share more stories from missionary staff like Nicole. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yep. Thanks.